Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. You guys having a good conference so far? You guys hashtagging? Hashtag DSUM15. We're going to be giving out lots of stuff. Remember that $1 million is still up for grabs. Good. All right, so let's just kick off this next breakout. Please help me welcome to the stage from Verndale. He is the Chief Experience Officer. Please help me welcome to the stage Keith LaFerriere, everybody. Keith! Yeah, we got it.
Hi, so if you could all just move to the front. I'm kidding. So far, we've heard a bunch of really good content. I'm just going to go through this really quick. This is an ad-free presentation. We don't want to have a lot of presentations with us selling ourselves, but just to suffice it, my boss will kill me if I don't say this. I'm from Verndale. That's it. That's all you're getting. Let's talk about flexible user experience. The image that you're seeing in front of you matters in a couple of ways. One, I think sex sells. Number two, the instance that you're seeing of people is in a T-shape. How many people are told that you want to be a T-shaped person? No? 5, 6 people, that's awesome. T-shape means you go across a number of things, but you dive deep into one element. So we're going to do that today. We're going to talk about flexible user experience as it dives deeply into content and commerce. So, my name's Keith. If you want to find me on Twitter, I don't really tweet very much, but when I do, it's there. We are talking about flexible user experience today. Verndale.com for anybody that wants to learn about our company as an organization. And by the way, we're the booth right outside the door here if you want to talk to us even more. And if you happen to hashtag this session or tweet about it or anything, use flexible UX. That would be amazing because we track that kind of stuff, of course. On the left, you'll see my journey from growing up in San Diego in a little place called North Park, San Diego. I moved under cover of darkness to Boston, where we get tremendous amounts of snow. It's awful. And then I travel a lot, so you'll see nothing but airlines and airspace in front of me. My cat Samson, my dog Max. There you go. All you need to know about Keith. So what's the story of commerce? We started in a world where commerce was this open platform thing. It was all out there. It was really bizarre. And then we move into things that are more like a market. And then we move to things that are more like a mall. And then we move to things that are more like the web. And suddenly, commerce is everywhere. Everywhere, and it's different for everyone. Shopping and commerce, and now e-commerce, or commerce, because you really shouldn't say e anymore, is really out there in different ways and different channels. It's ubiquitous. You can do it anywhere at any time. That's awesome. So bartering has evolved. In the old days, it was haggling and people brokering for information and brokering for opportunities. And nowadays, it's more like social currency, coupons, Groupons, that type of thing. So that's evolved. The next evolution happened when we started talking about localized consumers talking and being competitive with one another and being more social. And in a social environment way back in the old days, you might have someone saying, my pig is worth more than your pig, and therefore you have social competition. Nowadays, it's global, it's influential, and it's forever. You cannot delete anything from social media. So as we know, brands that do really stupid things on social media are a lot of fun, so keep doing that. But they also cause a lot of problems for themselves, and it really does impact their bottom line. And one of the ways that it impacts their bottom line is the communication that happens as a residual effect in a negative space, and don't tell me there's no such thing as bad press. Once something like that happens, you have a hard time committing to getting it fixed and getting it back up online. Another thing that's different is shopping. So shopping, when you were in a bazaar or a market or a mall, shopping was very tactile, it's very hands-on, it's very touch-feely. But nowadays, the user experience is where shopping's at. It's more driven by channel, you're communicated to, you interact with things intentionally, and even though there's still something tactile about it, it's very soft-driven. You are touching something, you're moving it, you're scrolling it, you're squaring it out, you're trying to make sure that your responsive design or your adaptive design works on all levels, and yet you haven't touched anything. Until you start talking about omnichannel, and you start breaking out of the web and breaking out of digital sets and going into the store place and the marketplace, back to the malls. So we're kind of doing this circle thing, which is really interesting. What's been a struggle for a lot of people is the content. And the content collaboration has been very difficult because you have traditional marketing, which says, I want to market this way, and just talked to a client yesterday who still used postcards, very effective still for their medium. But just having postcards and having that print mentality has really hurt them in terms of their growth, their marketing automation tools that they want to use and all that stuff. They're not actually up to par. So there is a problem because the infrastructure of the company wants to go forward and start talking about how content and collaboration has worked in other mediums, like a postcard or like a broadcast video. But online, the struggle is very real. It's really, really real. Like, it is hard to get people to talk to one another in disparate environments within an organization to make this work. And why? Because content and commerce systems are typically disparate entities. There are some platforms, and we'll talk about those in a second, that actually have that together. But suffice it to say that if you're a content author and you're working with a product manager, you're not always on the same page. You have different goals, you have different reasons for showing up at meetings, and sometimes you're influenced by IT down the middle. But the problem is the customer doesn't know that and doesn't care, so you need to find a way to pull it together. So if you look at the bottom, awareness, consideration, intent, then decision and purchase, separated. Moving forward, you want that to be together. You want that all to be in one piece. And the best way to pull that together is obviously throughout UX. So when you have UX that's driving forward the experience, to pull all of that together, you've got a way of taking content from someone's idealistic view based on a product and tactile informational view and putting it to the customer's purview. So let's talk about this for a second. There are a number of platforms. There's platforms that do just commerce, and we'll talk about those. There's platforms that do just content marketing. There's platforms that do lead generation, lead scoring, all that stuff. But your goal is to stitch this together into one cohesive experience, because without it, you're not selling anything. I'll give you an example. So working with Apple, a long time ago, not with my current company, former life, Apple has always had these disparate situations. They've got Apple Store or store.apple, and they've got apple.com. And for years, if anybody who's a designer in the house, all right, a whole bunch of designers, that's awesome. So I'm sure every single client you've ever spoken to when you started out said, hey, I want our new site to kind of look like Apple. I like Apple. Can you make it look like Apple? I can make it look like Apple, and you will sell nothing of anything that you want to sell because Apple sells what Apple sells, and you need to sell your own stuff. Another one that came up all the time was, you know, I love the ease of use of an Amazon.com, and I love the way that you can shop for one thing and just have a search engine just go through all these and tick off your boxes and just get what you need. And I would say, well, IT professional, because that's usually who said it, that's probably not the best way for you to sell either. So you look at the convergence of these two things, and there are examples out there that are live today that actually bring content and commerce together. So let's talk about what makes that happen. So on the back end, you've got these different systems. There are standalone systems. They're independent. They work side to side, and they take content and commerce, and they kind of throw them together on separate platforms. Then you've got captive, which throws them together for the first time, building onto an existing application and adding software on top of it. And then you've got connectors, which are things like connect the software to another piece of software so that the third software can present something from the software. But the best way to do it is to have an integrated platform. So we work in the world of content experience management platforms, CXM, which is the evolution of CMS. And a lot of companies do that. There are many people and many teams and many efforts that go into making this system work, because you have to worry about marketing automation, content orchestration, design, the strategy of how the system's going to work and what your roadmap is for the future, how you're going to map in third-party integrations, how you're going to work in things like Hybris, which is an e-commerce platform, and then a product information database. All those things that make up this universe of the experience for the customer have to be done on as little or few platforms as humanly possible, because it is really difficult to design, especially responsive, if you don't have control over the data set coming to you. A lot of people will say, well, it's a front-end thing, so you give me the data, I'll design it however I want. That's kind of true and not really true. To state that the right way, it's take a look at flexible components and put them into ways that matter for the things you can control versus the things you can't control. So I could control how a module of content comes from these customer experience management platforms and make it work for the size and the system that I'm on. Am I still on? We're good. Okay. I get a nod from the front row. If you were to say, hey, this payment gateway, offers data in a search module that isn't flexible or isn't responsive, but it happens to come in this flavor, you can probably still work it into your interface design. What you're looking at are not wireframes or anything, they're just architectural principles of how you want to mix and match content. And they're also how you want to mix and match functionality. This is a stepped progress of having screens that collapse into one view. So while you may see 1, 2, 3 columns on the last one, you're actually talking about what fits in a mobile environment. This process is actually what helps you think the first stages of how are we going to make this interface work. And so it's really flexible in a component module way to make things appear the way they need to appear across devices. So we are all striving for a device agnostic environment. It does not matter if you're talking about an app or a website or whatever. You're looking to find something that is device agnostic, that helps you sell and track and lead and do your behavioral indexing and your scoring and all of that under one roof. So how do we get there? We have 3 ways that we can do this. We need to make it more elastic. We need to make it assistive, we need to make it more elastic, and we need to make it fast. So by those 3, assistive. If I were to go to Amazon.com and search for a pair of boots, and I said I want these boots in a dark brown, and I want them with laces up the top and blah, 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 and I did all my searching, and I got my results, and then I saw that the boots in front of me were purple with yellow laces and only laced halfway up and then stopped, because that's what they come with. I would not be in context, therefore I would not have a very assistive user experience. Suffice it to say, same thing happens in a very vanilla form where you're just filling out your information and the context or the instructional content is not in that form. It doesn't tell you what you're supposed to be doing. Therefore, there's no assistance whatsoever in what you're trying to do. If you're flexible in how you present your user experience, you should have things like, in order to fill out this form correctly, here are little things. And you don't explicitly say that. You imply it by the ways that we've all been taught through use cases and say, here's the data I need. I'm telling you exactly the format I need it in, and then I will get the results that I want on the backside for me. This is where people don't get that user experience is actually a two-way system. It's symbiotic. The customer is giving you information. They are actually at that point investing, and they're like, yeah, sure, I'll totally give you my info, don't worry about it. But on the back end, if you don't tell them how to get that data from them or the way that you want it, you're not being very assistive, and therefore you will suffer on the backside for your company because you're not getting any information in the right way. The next thing you want is for something to be elastic. And this is not just about responsive design, although it's pretty important, especially now with Google's new algorithm or ranking system. But the way that we look at it is device agnostic. What I'm talking about in flexible user experience is that it doesn't matter if it's on a phone, a tablet, or a desktop, or a digital billboard that's giant in the middle of a stadium, or as small as a watch. It really doesn't matter. If you're flexible in the way that you approach all this data, all this content, regardless of the 50 systems that power it behind it, then you're going to present the thing in the right way. And that's what I mean by making it elastic. You've got to do content strategy from top to bottom. You've got to do design strategy from top to bottom. And I don't say bottom to top because, or mobile to out, because we're in a world now where people are getting too smart for their own good, and they're starting on a mobile platform and going, that's the only data they need. But when you start like that, and you don't learn the behavior behind it, or you don't have a behavioral engine behind it, you're not actually sure that that's what they want. So test, test, test is another piece of this. And that's part of making it fast. So when you're trying to be fast in UX, you want a couple of things that you want to pay attention to. One, you want to make it as fast as possible to complete the task, and that's a no-brainer, right? But how many times have you been on a site where the form is 3 parts long, and all you want to do is sign up and get information right away and start using it and then go to like kid's birthday? But you can't, because in order to really do this and just check it out for like 10 minutes, you have to fill out this really elongated form, and it's awful. Even on mobile, where it's only like 6 at a time, you're having a hard time. If you make it fast, you make it short, but you also make it concentrated to the content that you need right away. Example, I'm applying for college, and I'm not really sure I want to go to your college, but I want to fill out these pieces of information, and eventually I want you to get back to me, or I want to fill out a Common App. Common App is a very long process, and it doesn't need to be. It could start out as 3 or 4 pieces of really unique identifiable information that says to you, hey, go take a look at this, Now go let me know if you need anything else. And hey, go take a look at this. Let me know if you need anything else. And it should actually build it on the fly in a very smart way based on the content that you're offering it back. So it can start with baseline info. And you should always start with baseline info. Whatever you think you need to get the thing started. I need your name. I need your email address, basic. And then after that, you should start thinking about how do you build your forms in a very smart way. And the only way you're going to do that is if you have a behavioral engine behind it, or you have some metrics behind it to kind of drive the experience through your persona inside that system. And it's very possible to do this very quickly if you know exactly what you've done for content strategy, for marketing strategy, for design strategy, and everything up front, because then you can run through your whole gamut of info and get one piece at a time in a very concerted way, and you can even stop the process so that they aren't giving you things you don't need. So, a couple of different projects that have gone live in the last year. Again, I said this is not an ad thing. I'm not up here to shill Verndale. One thing I will talk about is a client of ours. Another one is a client that I worked on when I was in another life. So I'll talk about the Verndale one first, just because we have problems that everybody has when you're trying to work with volumes of data that are massive, just absolute massive amounts of data that include not only US and domestic type stuff, but also include the internationalization and the language modification of things that are going out across seas. So Black & Decker is a pre-commerce environment. They are still using all of the bells and whistles that you'd find in a commerce situation, but they're using them in a way that matters directly to channel conflict. And when I say channel conflict, I'm talking about, and I know there are people from Home Depot here, so don't yell at me. They have channel conflict from people like Home Depot where they are trying to sell their product internally. Home Depot has their own kind of brand thing that they are doing, which I won't talk about. And then they try to mix and match how they can sell this online without being in channel conflict with a Home Depot so that they don't ruin their relationship. Great idea. But in order to do that, you need to know where the channel conflict is, how to strategize the marketing that goes out, all the content that needs to feed in that doesn't actually have any conflict with something like Home Depot, and then how to sell it up until the point where you actually don't sell it. You just drop it off at the product display page and you say, go over to Home Depot and check it out. So that's one of the things that we had to deal with. Another one is language. So internationalization, they're already launching the new site in the UK, and then so on and so forth. So it'll be all over the world with this new site, language modification, and language display. You can either do that local, or you could do it through a service. They chose through a service. That's great. And their content doesn't have to change no matter what device they're on, no matter where they are in the world. So quickly, product display page. This is a standard desktop type thing. It's assistive. Why is it assistive? Because it actually shows a learn more and it tells you more information other than just being a white space driven page. It also has the product image that is in context. And then it also tells you that you can find more pictures and video if you want of the actual instance. It is fast because it is telling you that you can buy it right then and there. Well, you can find out where to buy it right then and there. And then after that, you can kind of go through your content marketing below. So here's a thing that more brands should be thinking about doing. I have tactical stuff that I need to do supported by content marketing. Complete opposite of where almost every website is right now, where most websites start off with pretty picture, really want to do something cool, and now I have no functionality tied to it until you scroll and you find whatever you're looking for, or you just fall back to search and you start using the search engine regardless. Not a great way to handle it, because what you're really doing at this point in the process, and remember we're at a product display page, if you've already invested enough time to kind of get down to the product display, you're one of two people. You're either someone who's looking for this and knows that they want it, or you're somebody that is looking around and finding tools, and you've clicked on a link to get to this tool to kind of make your final call. When you're on mobile, the same thing has to happen. You can't get rid of your content strategy when you go down to mobile, and what I see a lot is mobile experiences that focus a lot on, even on this deep dive of the page, something that's very visual at top and then something very textual based down below. Whereas this one is specifically product driven and then gives you your information right away. So let's talk about another one. New Balance. E-commerce, fully responsive, and I'm going to start going a little bit quicker now. E-commerce, fully responsive, but their focus is on content as a whole. Like, they want to sell you the experience of wearing an outfit. In this situation, it's buying a look. And when you buy a look, you're buying everything. You're in, you want this whole thing. You saw this person at the gym and you're like, oh my God, looks so good on them. I'm sure it'll look great on me. So it never does, trust me. I bought a belt once and I went, wow, that looks like shit. So it does. Who knew that whales on a pattern on a background were not cool? Until you try it on. So I'm gonna start mobile. Everything about this new site that they launched last year is, or new-ish site that they launched last year, was thought of from a kind of a lookbook on. And a lot of brands that are like a Burberry or a New Balance or even a Nike, their content structure looks at things in a different way than I would look at them from a UX perspective. Their look is, hey, we have to compete across so many different product lines that if we don't start showing the entire like ensemble, we're never going to sell what we want individually, and that's their approach. If I don't show you this, I can't sell you this. It's a little weird, but it doesn't make a lot of sense when you think about selling what they are normally known for selling, which is tennis shoes or runners or anything like that. But when you look at it from their perspective, it starts to pull together a lot of the content that other brands wish they had, that they spent a lot of money investing in, and that's one of the things I'll talk about very quickly, is the investment of content. So if you look at a New Balance and you go to a lookbook or a situation like this, that investment in content is hundreds of thousands of dollars over a year. I don't know a lot of brands that actually have hundreds of thousands of dollars that they want to throw away, unless they're in like the top 100. So for a marketer who's working for a mid-level company or who's in an environment where content marketing is just not king yet, and they're having a hard time explaining to people who are selling up the chain that content marketing is important, therefore content creation is even more important, start thinking about how to communicate with more visuals mixed in with product display. Always think of your product display first and the thing that you want to sell, and then build your content around it. On a desktop, build your content in video. Video sells. Work your video and content and imagery around it, and then start to will your way back into focus. That's why I say if you start with desktop-minded, it'll help your content marketers sell and socialize your content strategy up the chain. Start here. Don't start here. I know every single person you talk to says start here. I will be the person that says don't. Start out here. And if you start out here and you have the money to invest, even if it's not a lot of money, you will start feeling the environment of the sale. Then work your way in and start to get more focused as you get down to your mobile. Should make sense. It's kind of how your boss thinks of it, and it's not the way it's going to last forever, but it's really important. So let's look at theirs. This is a very strange interface because even though it's responsive, it doesn't give you a ton of stuff that you can look at from a content perspective, even on a mobile device. So a little bit of a miss on this one. It just should have more content, more detail, but they went from big-ass content marketing down to like, okay, I'll just show you this. Not a great content strategy. However, once you click on the look, you're taken into a very a very interesting tactical environment. First of all, you're being given contextual imagery, thumbnail style, pretty easily digestible. It gives you options right there on the screen so you don't have to change anything. You're not leaving the environment when you make a choice. And when you get to an environment where you've got many choices, you start to realize that all these different choices are done on one screen and you haven't left yet. So even though you're looking at 3 screens here, you're just looking at 3 tactics. And that's really where they made a difference. So they may have missed the boat kind of on the way that they did their content structure and their strategy, but once you actually click into something, and this is kind of the way it should be for almost the rest of their site when it's not a lookbook situation, find the pieces of information that you can give them right away, make it as fast as humanly possible. So we have success criteria. I'm a big fan of The Simpsons, even though it's really gotten really crappy in the last 10 years, but now that Harry Shearer is leaving, it's really sad. So here's my homage to Homer. We are in a tap and go generation. Everybody wants to tap and go. This is the equivalent of when the microwave came out and people went, make me dinner, damn it, I got 5 minutes, go. That's where we are. Express lane e-commerce really matters, or express lane commerce. I will remove that E, it will die. Express lane commerce means that you've got to give ways for people to get to the information they wanted to get to without getting content marketing in their way. If you're working search, and that's all you do all day long, hook up, have parties, many beers, and drink and talk about how the two of you content marketer and search marketer should make this work. You have to have express lane. It's got to be, I can get there right now, go buy that thing today. In 2 minutes, I can buy that thing and have it at my door. Amazon doesn't give a shit about content for the most part, other than reviews and star ratings and all that. They give a hell of a crap about getting from SEO to that product and making you buy it immediately. Huge lesson learned. Mobile is not a question, it is the answer. If you're not there, you're screwed. Omni-channel access matters a lot. I don't want a cookie cutter situation where I see something on the web and when I go to the in-store, it looks exactly the same on the display. But I do want a continuation of service. And I want that promise that the service will continue from one place to another. If I'm standing in a store, I shouldn't feel weird about pulling out my phone and doing a quick check on what's going on. And then saying, hey, do you guys have this? I see that it's here and it's la, but do you have it in stock? No? Okay, I'll just buy it online. Can I have it shipped here? Sure. Vice versa, there's content that should happen on the site that is now pulling direct shipping to your location without charging you, by the way, for it to be there. And it should be there immediately, or at least within a 2-day window. Content matters. It matters more now than it did when the whole content thing started. Like, content is king was a great thing for a while. Now it actually matters even more, and it matters how you do it and when you do it. So how do we get there? Big reasons here. This is like really, I feel very strongly about this first one. Are there people, how many people in the audience work for an agency? Okay, we've got a few. How many people work for like a top 10 agency? Okay. Here's what happens at top 10 agencies, and I spent 22 years in agency land. You have assistant account managers, you have account managers, you have project managers, you have project coordinators, you have business analysts, you have technical analysts, you have designers plus you have everybody in that room filling up the space, 20 people to a meeting, and there's one client on the phone on the other side. And you're having conversations with all of these people. Basically, you're talking to yourselves. So, what I would like to say is low overhead on everything. It'll make you go faster. Keep teams tight and intimate, and bring people in and drop them off at the pool to have fun when they don't need to be in the room. They will love you for it. Take good notes so that they don't have to be there. Be fiscally responsible so that they don't care that you're doing this meeting without them. Have a good relationship with your client so that they know that they're in good hands when they leave. That kind of stuff. Keep low overhead. Next one is test often. I am a big fan of testing everything. I would, if a client had enough money, they'd be running tests every month on everything we design and build. Because without it, you really don't have a clue about what's going on until you launch that, and then it could be an ultimate mistake. I'd rather test it early, often, all the time. Build on a scale. Funny thing about success is that when people buy into a solution, it actually gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Your problem is you don't want to build it too fast, and you want to have a start, middle, and finish. And the finish is years. So investments in a platform mean starting off small, putting little fires out there to see what triggers, building it into what everybody calls a minimally viable product, get it out there, start playing with it, learn, and then start building on it. Enhancing the things that matter, not the things on your wish list, but the things on the product wish list from the consumer's perspective. That matters quite a bit. If you test and you build for scale, both of those things will get you to your end goal, and your roadmap will be perfect. Make it fast. I'm not just talking about making the UX fast. I'm talking about making the damn site fast. Like, that background image that you've got that's like 600K, like, drop it. Get rid of it. I don't care if it's a little pixelated when it goes down to 310. Do it. Like, just make it easier. Make it faster. Make your forms faster. Make your forms 3 fields long instead of 15. Do something to make your interface faster for the user. Make it personal. Here's my favorite. You don't have to be creepy in order to have loyalty. Matter of fact, the more upfront and honest you are, the better you're going to have a time getting information out of your consumer. You just be upfront and just say, look, I need this in order to get my job done. Here's the way I want you to give it to me. What do you say? And if they're invested already or they're loyal, they're going to get even more loyal because you're being honest and you're being straightforward. And here's your bonus stat. This is a stat that matters because when I say make it fast, and low overhead and everything, this one really matters. So there was a study, Pew Internet came out with a study a few weeks ago. 30% of the people that have a smartphone run out of bandwidth on their plan. Like, they run out of data on their plan on a regular basis. That is a bad thing because it's the only device they have at their fingertips to do anything. That's it. Schoolwork, shopping, social, sharing, talking, texting. That's it. And if 30% of people are running out of bandwidth and your site doesn't load fast or doesn't give them value immediately, you're going to be part of the people that just get pushed off to the side so that they can do more of the other stuff. So with a minute left, thank you very much. Best audience I spoke to today. Here's a link to the presentation if you want. And let me know if you have any questions. We still have a minute and 41 seconds. You in the back. No, I'm kidding. I don't think anybody has any questions. Okay, cool. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Thanks, buddy. Yep.
Keith LaFerriere, everybody. Yeah, all right. I think we got 2 more breakouts for the day. Let me just tell you what's going on so you know where to go. Right here in the main stage at Bing Stage, we have Rebecca Lieb from the Altimeter Group. Also, Michael Salomon from Lousy is going to be at the Mondo stage, which is stage 2 over there. And this should be a cool one. We have three speakers at the Kenneco stage, which is reps from the Washington Post, Stumble Upon, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. That should be pretty awesome. And then also from AdRoll, David Perry is going to be at the Swag Chimp stage, stage 4. So we'll see you back here around 10 after